Welcome to Diversity Conversations, where we engage in thought-provoking dialogue to identify leadership solutions to today's most challenging conflicts. Stream live each week, Saturday 9:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. Hosted by Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategist and CEOs Ariel Ellis and Tommy Lewis. Join us and add your voice to this engaging diversity conversation.
Good morning, Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, the United States, and the world. My name is Ariel Ellis. I'm the president and CEO of Integrity Development Corporation, and I'm joined by my good friend and brother,
Tommy Lewis, president and CEO of Make It Plain Consulting. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Tommy. How are you, my friend?
Hey, man, I'm excited. I'm excited for a number of reasons, man. Hey, we came in strong today.
We're moving on up like the Jeffersons, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. It's great to be with you this morning, Eric.
Absolutely great to be with you as well. We want to thank our producer, Brooke Haynes, for that beautiful intro video. Spent a little bit of time working back and forth on that. Tommy, you look great in it, but we are excited that progress is happening. Tommy and I believe in advancing the ball. In other words, you cannot just stay stationary where you are. You have to keep recognizing that you have within you the gifts, the skills, the talents, the abilities, and the faith to take you to new places. We cannot keep sitting back, waiting on somebody else to save us, waiting on somebody else to bring the formulas for success. You've got to wake up and utilize everything that God has put on the inside of you to make new things happen. Tommy, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's spot on, Eric. We cannot be complacent, especially today when everyone is working hard to become better people or better professionals or even be relevant in today's society. And relevance is progress. Relevance is progress. So we can't always stay in the past. We have to remember the past and learn from the past, but we are looking to move forward. So that's what we're doing, Eric.
Tommy, I want to talk about our week and certainly have you, but I also want to ask you, a perspective. So my brother George called me yesterday and asked me to join in sort of this private conversation that was happening on Clubhouse. I don't know if you've had a chance to join in with Clubhouse, but it's a new sort of platform that a lot of influencers are going to, and some of the biggest names in production, media, content management, insights are on this platform, Clubhouse. And so he invited me on to join a private conversation with about 6 sort of thought leaders. And Tommy, they were sort of asking me to help them brainstorm, how do you better navigate some of these conversations when people are coming in with all kind of perspectives? They're not all on the same page. Sometimes they're just arguing and going at each other. And I'll tell you, Tommy, what I was, so I was saying to them that part of the problem is that we get too much thrill and excitement at jousting and debate and sort of, some people call cancel culture. But I'm wondering, Tommy, is it possible for us to move beyond simple anger, frustration, and protest? And is it more possible for us to come together more collaboratively and invest more of our energy in solutions? Maybe you don't see it like I see it, but I'd like your perspective on our comfort at just debating, sort of complaining, protesting, and fighting each other even for who's the most woke, if you will.
Yeah, Eric, debate has its place.
Mm-hmm.
Debate and discourse has its place. In other words, with debate, to be a good debater, you want to do 3 things. 1, you want to have a firm grasp on your own ideology, perspective, opinion, and maybe even data. You want to have a firm grasp on that. You also want to have a firm understanding of the other's perspective.
Right.
That's a good debater, maybe even a great debater. Because if you are an okay debater and you're just trying to push your opinion, it may fall on deaf ears.
Right.
And then the third piece is to be able to share your thoughts and opinions in a way that is charismatic and it lands on the other person.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so debate has its place, Eric. It does. Now, with that being said, I believe that debate is good for discourse. It's good for argument. It's good for dialogue or even heated conversations.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't always equate action.
Mm.
It doesn't always equate change in behavior,
Mm-hmm.
either individually or collectively.
Right.
So I would recommend that as we look at debate, arguments, even platforms or folks are verbally jousting or through written word jousting,
Right.
that may be good for entertainment. But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, have we changed people? Have we changed policies? And have we changed the culture to be better?
There was a female on there that Ayana that was saying that some of these people are getting so worked up in their perspective that they're taking it from this virtual world of debate and they're beginning to stalk people in the real world. And so I think that's when, and we see that on a lot of social media, man, that people are working themselves up so much that they move from the gamesmanship of the back and forth to really believing that you don't need to continue if you have that belief. I think when we look at it from that perspective, I think some people have maybe sort of gone too far. And when you have these spaces that people can come to, man, they bring all kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think people have gone too far. Well, I can tell you right now, historically, there's been a venue that people have debated arguments civilly for years. Eric, it's the barbershop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in the barbershop, we had brothers and sisters and all kinds of folks in there debating all types of topics from any direction. At the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, there is a culture that although we may agree or not agree, we're going to raise our voice or tone. Our language may get colorful. We may have the analytical person, the person that drops the data, the person that's very charismatic. At the end of the day, I'll see you next week. I'll see you in a
Right.
couple of weeks.
I
We're
love
still
that, Tommy.
community. We're still family. And
Right.
so we've moved away from that a little bit.
Right.
And I would say a lot of the reason why we've moved away from it is because this jousting, as you've put it, and I agree with it, has been virtual, that people
Mm-hmm.
haven't really seen and been in front of people,
Right.
right? So we have this culture of folks throwing darts and daggers from afar and through the cyberspace, man. And
Right.
in our community, we say things like, I'm going to see you, literally, and if I see you, it's going to be a different conversation and furniture will be arranged.
Hey, Tommy, this leads into you are going to be facilitating, I think, a debate here in the near future. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about that? Tell the community a little bit about that, because they may want to weigh in with some topics as well, if you're okay with that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Eric. Since 1985 in Nashville, Tennessee, at Tennessee State University, there has been an intellectual and cultural forum called the Great Debate. The Great Debate debates contemporary issues of the day. In fact, in 1990, the debate had an audience of around 6,500 people listening to debate arguments around the topic, is America ready for a Black president?
Okay.
That was in 1990.
Right.
The debates are addressed from three different perspectives. One is the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. perspective. So it's not just from him, it's from his ideology, philosophy. For example, Dr. King believed more in integration, that we as human beings can come together. We need to break down segregation and we need to have equal rights.
Right.
He studied a concept called ahimsa, which is nonviolent protest, that was coming from Mahatma Gandhi. He studied, obviously, the Bible and the Christian morals and values, as well as from a formal education perspective. And then there's the Malcolm X, or El Hajj Malik El Shabazz perspective. And this is from the perspective of more or less self-preservation, religious or even cultural or racial nationality. Also from the less than formal education, basically a school of hard knocks. There's a lot of wisdom that's coming from the neighborhood and from the streets. We want to hear that perspective. And that's where Malcolm X, remember, he was Detroit Red back in the day. Malcolm X.
Right.
And then there's the synthesis perspective. And the synthesis is a look or a perspective from both and other sides. This year, we'll have a virtual great debate. And Xavier University, Tennessee State University, and The Ohio State University are competing in this debate. It's going to be held on Friday, April the 16th.
Okay.
The time is going to be around 5 o'clock. We may shift to 6 o'clock, but that is Friday, April the 16th. We will have spoken word, dramatic interpretation, maybe some rap or song. And so we are definitely looking out for debaters, of course, but those who bring the culture to the event. Again, this is an intellectual and cultural forum.
Okay.
We'll be pouring libations. We'll be giving the Nguzo Saba, the Black National Anthem. Man, since 1985, this has been a phenomenal event, as well as an opportunity to change policy.
Okay.
Change policy. Okay. So we welcome folks to join and definitely welcome folks to learn more. And you can learn more by simply emailing me.
Okay.
You can email me at info, I-N-F-O, at mipcllc.com. Again, that's info at mipcllc.com.
Now, Tommy, what is your role and how long have you been affiliated with this?
My role is twofold. One, I'm a corporate sponsor.
Okay.
So I support financially the behind the scenes promotions, technology, things of that nature. And I've done this kind of sponsorship here in Cincinnati for about 10 years.
Okay.
I have another role is that I'm a member of the Great Debate Honor Society.
Okay.
Which
awesome.
it's a rites of passage. And the rites of passage, Eric, takes 52 years to complete. I began the process in 1989.
Okay.
89. And so I've had the pleasure of meeting Coretta Scott King, the widowed wife of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Imam Worth Deen Muhammad, who's the son of Elijah Muhammad of the Nation of Islam, Maulana Karinga, who created Kwanzaa, right? Henry Skip Gates and Cornel West. Those are folks that I've met with, talked with, and I speak with regularly because of my connection with the Great Debate. And so I'm glad to be able to share that, and I'm always happy to be involved.
Well, that's awesome, man, and impressive. I want you to make sure that you send me some material on that because I don't want to miss that. And I'll tell you, man, I've had a good opportunity this morning to sort of sit back almost like a community member. And brother, you on fire this morning. I mean, you waxing quite eloquent this morning. I mean, I just said, that's a smart brother right there. His game today, boy. Oh, I'm co-hosting with him. Lucky that's what I was saying. Lucky me. We've got a wonderful guest that's going to be joining us, Dr. Ariel Ellis. I met her on LinkedIn. We're still not sure if we're family or not, but we've been working together. And so she's got an amazing company, Advisory 83. And Dr. Ellis is a phenomenal business leader. She's doing some big work with organizations like Learfield IMG College. They're responsible for all the stuff that happens with universities around sports around the country. And so she's going to be joining us this morning. I'm real excited about that. Tommy, I'm excited for her to meet you because she's a strategic alliance. You know, she's a networker, man. And she I've talked to you a little bit about how she runs her business. She really is open, and she believes in putting people together. So I'm excited about that. I think she also serves in the capacity, so if I forget this time, as the president of the National Public Relations Association. So she is the current president. And so that's awesome. Good morning, Angela. It's good to have you join with us. Tommy, why don't you talk about your week, man? How did your week go?
Yeah, my week was very busy this week, Eric. I'm very happy it's Saturday. I am. Man, I will say that of the weeks before and the months and maybe years before, all the seeds that we plant, some of them grow.
That's right.
Some of them need additional watering and different care, maybe even put in a new pot.
That's right.
New soil.
That's right.
This week, Eric, the seeds that I had planted and sowed, many of them were coming into fruition.
Woo! Come on now, somebody.
So let me tell you what that looks like. That every week we're chasing business, wanting to provide value to clients, to customers, both individuals, small, medium, and large organizations, domestically and maybe globally, right? We're doing that every week.
Right.
And sometimes we have to circle back with our past clients to remind them of the great work we did with them.
Right. That's right.
Because they move on with their business and sometimes don't always remember us until they need it.
Right.
But we send gentle reminders. Hey, thank you for doing business with us. I hope things are well. Here are the results from our last session or time together a year ago, 2 years ago.
Right.
We have to drive that relationship. Right. Just like a marriage or just like a friendship, to be friendly, you must first show yourself as being friendly.
Right.
The seeds that we have planted and sowed, our friends, our partners are reaching out to us when they have a need or a want. Last week, we had a half a dozen past clients say, hey, you remember last year, the beginning of the year, like February, March? Mm-hmm. And I was at a point like, hey, I do a little bit. What are we talking about? They were like, great work.
Right.
And they said, let's do it again.
Right.
Let's do it again. And they have a schedule.
Right.
So this past week was literally picking the harvest, the fruit of the labor.
Come on now, somebody.
Bringing that fish into the boat. If not the fish jumping into the boat. Praise Jesus.
Right.
Praise Jesus. So that's how our week was last week, man. How about you?
I love that, Tommy. And I'll tell you that there is so much that's transferable about what you said. One of the reasons why it's so important for us to sort of reflect on the week is because part of what we want to do is help people see our journey, that you and I are real people, and that we're in a real struggle. We're in a real fight. We're in business trying to advance the ball. And we want to share those ups and downs with people so that they might be able to glean some things out of that, our experiences that they might be able to transfer. I think that so often, we have so much that we're frustrated about. When you are winning on occasions, then it's a great thing to share that this week I notched a couple wins. Yeah. And so I love that. That is happening in our business as well. Russell Harrison, good morning, man. We're going to get together. We're going to get together. I think we're on the calendar again, man. I love you. Russell was my first boss, Tommy, when I was an intern for the city of Cincinnati. And he was the funniest guy, man, and the nicest guy. But he was also about their business,
Oh, yeah.
So he was one of my first mentors, and he's been a huge supporter, man, over all the years of my professional life. And I'm honored that we're still connected.
And a golfer as well.
Okay, right. I've seen him out there. He's ducking me a little bit, though. He don't know that my game done dropped off. So I'm easy to take right now. But Tommy, I will tell you, man, it's been an exciting week. It's been a breakneck speed week. I am now taking people that have been a part of my team for a number of years, and I'm putting them in new positions. I'm bringing them into those conversations with the senior leaders of organizations. So, probably in my early days, Tommy, I might have these kind of sales calls and then I do all the talking. And so I've got other people there and they're just sort of there so the client can see that I got a team. But I've learned, man, over the years how much that was underutilizing the talent that I had around me. And so today, man, I love people to hear their voices. And this last week, they were saying to me, well, Eric, our time might be short. Maybe you should just, do the presentation so that you can pace it like you need to. I said, time out. I said, that was the old Eric, 15 years ago, Eric. Eric of today knows that you cannot just show up and be there like a model. They need to hear your voice. They need to recognize that. See, this is what inclusion is about, Tommy. When you have some gifts, then you bring some good things to the table. Hooray for you. But when you start adding in other talents, skills, abilities, wisdom, then you put a multiplier effect on who you are as an organization. And as I watch my team, the three others do their part, Tommy, you know what happened inside of me? My chest was just swelling like, ooh, y'all doing it today. And I want to liberate people when I trust you to speak. You don't have to look at me and say, should I answer? No, you got something in your head, speak. Because I wouldn't have you here if I didn't trust you. So Tommy, I was really it was fascinating to see that happen on a couple of occasions. I had a couple of new experiences where there were some board members with a couple of companies that were in some of those conversations, and they were weighing in, man. Are we moving at the right pace? They were asking some challenging questions. I said, well, that's something that you'll have to, continuously look at. The other thing that I had a chance to do for Dr. Ellis is she invited me in to sort of work with one of her clients, and they were having some challenges with the DEI task force. So I had a chance to work with them. And so people were concerned that maybe they were overly aggressive and a little more hostile than they would want. But as I listened to some of the criticisms that the DEI task force were putting forth, I was saying, some of that's legitimate now, And so I had a chance to spend time with them yesterday, Tommy. And I started off with a question that I know is disarming. In other words, if any group of people that do this work begin to get aggressive, one of the questions you can ask is, okay, what have you done in the last couple of weeks to continue your work on you? What biases are you working on? And people start getting a little more silent. And I had a couple people say, you know what? Before you ask that question, I don't think I've ever thought about it. And I'll tell you, Tommy, that's one of the downsides of this work. If you begin to do this work and see yourself, I would describe it as see yourself as in diversity heaven. And your job is to really fly down like a mother bird trying to feed baby birds worms. No, you've got to see yourself more like, a piece of clay that's on the potter's wheel, and that you're continuously working on you and growing. And so that was, we moved from disarming them a little bit to putting them back together to listening to them. And the conversation was rich, man. It was really rich. And I was so proud at so many moments. I was able to affirm them, challenge them, hear from them, because I wanted to do a listening session. At the end of the day, I wanted to listen to them, identify what's the good news. So as you think about your organization, where it is right now, what are they doing well that you're proud of? But equally important is where are the gaps? Where are they falling short? What are the challenges that you see? And so we had a rich conversation. Kendall Wright, my friend, it's so good to have you. Every time I see Kendall's name show up, man, I feel like we're in good hands then.
I do too.
We're going to have a good day because, let's see, wise counselor, brilliant consultant, Dr. Kendall Wright is in the house, and he's going to be dropping off some pearls of wisdom. And so, Kendall, I want to say to you as well, we've got a guest that is going to join us at some point, and her name is Dr. Ariel Ellis. We've not yet discovered if we're related for sure, but she is a brilliant consultant. I want her to meet you as well because she has a growing practice, and I want her to meet people like you and Tommy and others in our community so that you might be able to do work with her as well because she's doing some amazing things.
So Eric, I have a question, and you kind of sparked my interest here per an experience I had last week as well. And my question hopefully will resonate with others, especially folks who are in their maybe third or fourth chapter of their career and soon going to be wrapping up.
Mm-hmm.
This week, I had an opportunity to be one of the finalists for a particular project.
Right.
I think they're interviewing 3, maybe 4 final vendors to provide this DEI training, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I had an hour and 15 minutes for presentation and then Q&A at the end. And as I'm preparing for my session, you know, I know who I am. I know what we've done at Make It Plain, et cetera. And so it's a Zoom interview.
Right.
And I look at the other 6 or 7, maybe 8 faces around the Zoom, and I'm realizing, you know, I have a little bit of a bias, and I'm projecting this bias that I don't know if there's anyone over the age of 28 or 29.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
And so they begin to ask me questions in the interview.
Right.
I've been doing this work for 30 years, been in business for 25 years.
Right.
Right. And there have been things I've been doing in those 30 years, domestically and globally, that I felt myself getting into my own feelings a little bit.
I hear you. Right.
And
right.
I was getting into my own feelings because they were asking me questions. And I was thinking, I got 30 years of experience doing this. Right. And you've been alive for 28. Right.
Right.
And so it made me also simultaneously think about some of our seasoned professionals who, because of COVID or for whatever reason, had transitioned from their previous employment. Now they're having to build up their resume and they're interviewing with HR generalists who are 25, 30 years old. And this seasoned person at the age of 60 is like, little boy, little girl, do you have the authority to ask me about what I know? I know more than you can think. And here's what I was thinking. I have forgotten more than you can remember.
Right.
Eric, help me and others who will go through interviews and have this experience and have to get out of their own way.
I love that, Tommy. Thank you again, once again, for your always special transparency. I tell people that the reality is on my bad days, Tommy, or on ordinary days, those are feelings that I may entertain as well. But I see myself as a lifelong learner, number one. And number two, I have to always sort of ring a bell in my head that says, manage your biases and respect who's in front of you. And I had a gentleman years ago, Tommy, who came and observed me. He was a consultant, a very wise consultant. He was out of Texas. His name was Dallas, I believe. He came to watch me. And one of the things he said about me, man, that I had never heard anybody say that before, but I really appreciated it, admired it, and never forgot it. He said, Eric, he says, you have a unique ability to close the social distance between you and others. So, Tommy, that's what I try to do. No matter who's in front of me, no matter what they're saying, I know that my opportunity is to seek to close that social distance, to be able to see that smile come across their face that says that I'm connecting with them. Because I know that before people, they don't really care what you know until they know that you care. And so one of the things that I always want to do then is start with that human side that says, I want to know you. I respect you. I admire that you're in this wonderful position. In many ways, I'm proud of you. I'm not looking down on you. I'm not trying to be paternalistic, but I am displaying all respect on my good days. That's the objective. But I think that it's just it's easy for people to disassociate themselves with that feeling, Tommy. That's like answering questions about, do you have bias? No.
Right.
You haven't said anything. You haven't said anything until you say, I can relate with that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not bigger than that. I can relate with that. Here's part of what I do on my good days to try to manage that. Because what I've seen, Tommy, is that the Rottweiler Eric doesn't bring back good results. That's why I put him away.
Mm-hmm.
That guy, his results aren't that good.
Yeah.
So I said, brother, we got to stick you back in the cage because you ain't helping me. And I think, Tommy, I even went through seasons of that. You know what I mean? Where I told you there was a season in my life where it felt like I was losing on a regular basis. Every door I knocked on, Tommy, 15 years ago, it was a no. Every door. I got to the place where I started questioning whether I should even be in this work. And then the season changed. And then every door I started knocking on, they were saying yes. I got so many yeses. I was like, God, for real, what? You just going to do it like that? Just going to hit a switch? I mean, that's how we do this. I needed this a few years ago,
Yeah.
But what I've seen is during that season of no, Tommy, I used to have a negative sort of perspective, expectations. I had negative expectations. Yeah. And guess what? When we have that in our mind, in our heart, it comes out on our face. It comes out in the way that we interact with people. And I think sometimes, Tommy, we lose before we ever get on the floor.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's good insight. And, we'll be bringing on our guests in just a moment here. But you're spot on, Eric. And I heard as well that the tables can turn as well. In other words, where the seasoned person may be feeling some type of way about this younger person who's trying to question their validity, their experience, their wisdom, and then kind of closing that social gap, which I thought was profound.
Right.
I would share that in turning the table for our younger generation, who's trying to make a mark in this world.
That's right.
And in a position to engage, potentially interview someone that is seasoned, wise, maybe more experienced, that closing that social gap is important, because if we're not careful, the younger person, and I was there too, in my seat of power, absolute power is absolute, and that may feed one's ego.
Right.
So I'm 25, 26 years old. I'm interviewing a 45 and 50-year-old trying to get a job with my company. And I'm like, if I say no, you're not going to work here. If I say yes, you'll go to the next phase. That can be egotistical.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not closing that social gap, right? So we have to be culturally humble. It's called cultural humility.
Right.
And be able to learn from one another and each other's experiences.
Right. We've got Charlie Winburn has joined us. Charlie, I was just telling Tommy I'd like to maybe have you join us next week on the show. So if you can, man, it'd be awesome to talk about your new role. So we're real proud of Charlie Winburn. He's done so many. He's retired from more careers than people have had in their lifetime. But we're proud that he continues to find a way to be in essential roles that put him in position to make a difference. And then he's one who will act. Tommy, I don't want to leave that thing about youth. Hold down the fort for just a second. I'm going to grab some things I want to show you.
All right. Yeah, again, with Charlie Winburn, definitely if your time is available for next week, that'll be great, or the following week. Love to have you on. And we would love to have some other guests as well, but want to showcase folks and connect us through this lens of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And what does that look like as it impacts our individual lives, but most importantly, our communities? The work that you do, Mr. Winburn, specifically and directly impacts our community as well as other communities.
That's exactly right. Tommy, my team was going through our files yesterday, and they came across some gems that I want to share with you. This is one of them. I don't know if you can see.
Yeah. Okay, got some heavy hitters there.
Right. So that's my sister and I when we were young in our business careers. But you will also see that short, brilliant black man is Johnny Cochran.
Yes.
And Johnny Cochran, I never knew I had this picture, a picture of myself and Johnny Cochran. But I want to show you another picture, man, because I laughed about it when you were saying what you were saying, and then I found this picture.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah.
Sir.
So that's Odell Owens, Dr. Odell Owens, young Odell Owens, younger, and that is Senator William Bowen.
Yes.
And so, and that's me in the middle. You know what, Tommy? I looked at that picture. You know what I said? This was funny because it's going to relate to what you've been saying. I said, I thought I was a big man. I thought I was somebody big, man. Here I am looking like my boys, my little boys, you know what I'm saying? And I just knew that I was much bigger than that. And it's funny how you see yourself at a time. So when I was the age of the young people that you're talking about, in my head, I thought I ruled the world. You know what I'm saying? I was being respected by Senator Bowen. I was trying to make a difference in the community. And I thought that I was a big man then. And now to look back and see how young I was. And I'll tell you, Tommy, I want to say something about that. There's so many of our young people that never get a chance to build a healthy amount of self-esteem and pride. So often they're beat down by the world around them that they never get a chance to see themselves as someone having something to offer. I believe that part of the reason why I had that mentality is because the male side of my family never really worked for anybody else. My grandfather was a farmer. He ran his own show. My daddy was an entrepreneur. He ran his own show. For the last 30 years, almost all my career, I've run my own show. So there's a part in me that has this independent, I don't need everybody else in the world to validate me. I believe that I belong. And I think that's the mentality that I had then. I didn't believe in arrogance. Some people will mistake confidence for arrogance. I despise arrogance, but I value confidence, not just my own confidence, but I want everybody around me to have that same level of confidence. As I see Judy and Jillian work into their new careers, man, I am so honored to remind them who they are. Because when we step into places where there's other talent there, Tommy, sometimes we can even question just a little bit our own preparedness for that. That's why you got to have some people around you who see you, who can encourage you, who can remind you of who you are. And I'm thankful, man, to have that gift to be able to tell. And that's what you and I do for each other, is remind each other of one another who we are, because there's many occasions for you to get beat down, aren't there? I mean, yes. You lose a contract or an opportunity, and in business, you might be doing a lot of losing on some time frames where doors are closing. So you're going to have to find some people in your life who can remind you of who you are.
Yeah, you're spot on, Eric. And speaking of confidence, I'm working with my young son, Bryce, who's preparing for baseball. And he is very adamant about starting this year. The competition is fierce. So the first practice that they had, this is for the high school, the First practice they had, uh, I spent some time in there after it was a 90-minute practice, and I learned that his body language was a little bit different,
Mhm.
right? His mechanics were not there. There was some. He was just not looking right. Okay, and I didn't interject at all. In fact, I left. I left. So I didn't know if he was trying
Right.
to impress me or whatever.
Yeah.
Later on that evening, we were talking, and he was sharing that he was disappointed. He was articulating his disappointment in a vein of regret and anger, right? But I could see through all of that. I could see through all of it. I saw that he was nervous and didn't have the confidence.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
So what I saw tapped into my own experiences,
Yeah.
which led me to the wisdom that I shared with him, that was shared with me years ago by my parents and other adults. And I said, well, you have practice tomorrow. What are you going to do differently?
Right.
Right. And he talked through that. So I wasn't telling him what to do. I allowed him to share with me what he was going to do. Ultimately, we got to a point of you can do this. You've done it before. That's the confidence. You've done it before.
Mm.
And when I saw that you were a little nervous. Were you nervous? He said, yeah, I was. So you'll get over that. That was day one.
Mm.
The next day after practice, and he is the youngest, basically the youngest on the team. And Eric, these boys are big,
Right.
6 feet tall, 6'1".
Right.
They're in the ninth grade, right?
Right.
They're big. 180 pounds. One guy's 200 pounds. Uh, the next day, it was like night and day. He was like, "Oh, Dad, I can compete." I said, "I know you can, right? I know you can." So part of that confidence is identifying one's own inherent strengths
Mm-hmm.
and knowing that you can compete and win. You
Right.
can interview and win the job. You
Right.
can make the presentation and win another person over. You can have the confidence to say yes or no. Because sometimes people say, I don't know if I say no, how it will come back to me. And
Mm-hmm.
then it diminishes my own self-esteem and self-confidence. No, it's already in you. Be you. Do you.
So let me speak on what you just shared, because inside of me, in many ways, my heart is just overflowing uh, because of this. Number one, you were applying fundamentally solid coaching techniques with your son. The average person thinks that coaching, what you and I do in the corporate workplace, is about providing the right answers. The greatest coaches ask the right questions. And so you literally were asking your son questions. But then the other thing I thought, Tommy, was what a blessing it is for Bryce that God dropped him in a household with a man who would love him enough to be focused on doing whatever it takes to enable my son to deliver his best. And I was so blessed and moved. You see, people don't talk enough about fathers that love their children and what they are investing in their lives. As you were talking, I was reminded of myself when I was growing up playing basketball. I was mostly a bench warmer in basketball, but my father would come to the practices. And I tell you, Tommy, I was always looking around. And if he wasn't there, I was missing him. And then I'd do something good and I look and he wasn't there, you know? And then when he would show up, I'd be like, yeah, yeah. And if I took the ball from me, I felt bad. I look at it. I try not to look at him. But he was always there to see my wins and my losses. And I'll tell you that people do not tell this story enough, that Black fathers specifically, many of us love our kids more than we love our own lives. I hear that in your voice, man. I love the relationship that you and Bryce have. I love that he was able to shake off day one, come back for day two, and that he had somebody in his corner, just like a good fighter, a good boxer.
Yeah.
When they go to the corner, there's somebody there with good eyes that can also give you some insight as to what they saw that might allow you to make adjustments and remind yourself of who you are and what you bring, man. So that was just, thank you for that wonderful gift of a story of a father's love, because there's something that outlasts sports, because now all we have is memories, really, and golf.
Yes, that's right. That's
it. The memories are good, but they're in the past and they're gone.
Yeah.
But what you will have for the rest of your life, and then beyond, for the rest of your life, you'll have that relationship with Bryce and he with you. And then beyond that, you'll have memories. And he'll be able to look back and think that my dad was there and he gave me some key reminders about who I was. Thank you, Tommy. Love that.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. Yeah. It's a great Saturday.
Right. Let's see, Tommy, let's see if there are any topics that we need to weigh in on as we're waiting for Dr. Ellis. One of them is Cornel West. I don't know if you heard that he, Harvard professor Cornel West did not receive approval to be tenured faculty at Harvard. And so I don't know if you heard that. If you haven't, what are your thoughts? People are really angry, that Harvard would make that kind of step with someone who is so prominent, so obviously brilliant, and such an asset to the institution. He's a graduate of Harvard. He was a professor at Princeton as well. And so for me, I started, building an imagination about the committee that chose to not give him tenure. And I imagine, I could be wrong, I imagine some arrogant men who actually were preparing themselves for the onslaught. And they're ready in their egos to defend their decision. The research says that all too often, what happens with meritocracy and policies and rules is that it's not that they applied them more harshly to us. A lot of the history is they apply them only to us. That those principles and those gatekeeping, meritocracy-oriented facts about articles and all like that, they only apply that stuff to us. And we see so often where when you are of the dominant culture, they're not holding you to those same standards that they have on the record books about how they operate. So I could see them being ready to argue people on the technical merit as to why they didn't tenure him, but you probably could find a lot of other dominant culture people that have a far less celebrated resume that they tenured, they gave them tenure. What is your view on that?
Yeah, I think you're spot on, Eric. I do. As academia, at least higher education, the ultimate goal for a professor that is interested is to be tenured.
Mm-hmm.
So what that means in philosophy, right? Philosophically, I can't be touched. Once you are tenured, you're untouchable. Meaning the freedom of speech and able to share what you think in the campus environment and outside of the campus environment is protected under the tenureship. You can say almost whatever. Now, and especially if it's within your canon, your thought process, right? And so there is a criteria to become tenured. And that criteria is developed, and there's a board that judges or assesses one's candidacy for tenureship.
Mm-hmm.
All of this that I just said is nice, good,
Come on
academic
now.
language,
Right.
right? And and if you're bored with this language that I'm sharing, these are the details that one who has an interest to be tenured has to address to present the argument of why they should be a tenured professor.
Right. Right.
And then to wait, Cornell West, someone who has seasoned experience, who is published,
Right.
who is has articles and
Right.
television,
Right. Global.
all of that experience
Right.
is in front of people in an interview process
Right.
that may be younger than him, may have less experience, and
Oh,
has the power to say no or yes.
full circle.
Right? And now he has to wait. And in this case, the decision came back no.
Right. Well, Tommy, I don't want to delay our guest any longer. She is here now. And I am so delighted. I know people didn't think I had a friend named Dr. Ariel Ellis. She has showed up. Yeah. You thought me and Tommy was just going to go through the whole show without my friend and cousin. She is my cousin now. You know, we don't know that for real, but I'm saying she's my cousin. But I've talked about her as the esteemed, celebrated CEO of Advisory 83. It's been an honor for us to work together collaboratively. She has a wonderful collaborative spirit. I've talked her up, Tommy, to you, to my good friend Kendall Wright, Reverend Dr. Jack Perkins. Thank you for joining us, man. So glad that you've joined us this morning. And we're going to bring to the stage Dr. Ariel Ellis. And Tommy, I think you're going to go out and you're going to come right back in so that we put her right in the center.
Sure will.
Good morning or hello.
Good morning. It is morning. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you all?
Outstanding. Outstanding. I am so delighted that you are able to join me this morning, join us this morning. I want to apologize for not doing my part to make sure that you had all the information that you needed to get with us in a timely manner.
It's okay. I'm delighted to be here.
Welcome to the stage. What I'd like to do is have you just start off and maybe introduce yourself to our audience. And I want you to go the long way a little bit and just sort of walk. Yeah, we here to listen. We want you to sort of tell us of the experiences that you've come through, the different things that you've done, what you're doing right now, both in your organization and also there's a couple boards and places where you serve of note with the public relations, I think, president of the National Public Relations Organization. I don't know what that exact title is, but
sure. I'll share all of that. Well, thank you again for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here today. And I have to say, Eric, I hope we're cousins at some point. We find out, but even if not, it's just been a delight to work with you and Integrity Development Corporation and the work that you all do, and just being a partner in business together and serving clients together. It's just been a real delight. I watched you yesterday work with the task force of one of our largest clients, and you just had everybody eating out the palm of your hand. So, and you have been able to just really come in and with your years of experience, but also with your way and your style of communication and building capacity around relationships and diversity inclusion, just really been able to be a really good match for the work that we do, and really a huge help to us in building out our client base. So thank you so much. I have to thank you for that first.
Time for just a second, because I want to slow that down just a little bit.
Okay.
I always think it's important to teach people what's happening, because sometimes we fast forward it and they miss some of the important details.
Sure.
One, you trusted me enough to invite me in to work with you and your clients. One of the things that I admire about your leadership is that you are collaborative, and you brought a number of other organizations together, and you didn't ask for the CEOs to hide that.
Right.
You brought them to the table as who they are. That takes a lot of security and confidence.
Sure.
And you allow me to be in front of your clients But that's because you trust me. And then my job is to make sure that I'm always giving back to you the appropriate respect and honor so that that client understands that that's what this is. And so often we don't collaborate. We're afraid of each other, or we do things that are dishonorable with clients.
That's right.
In other words, they brought you in the door and now you're being dishonorable. So
Right.
I just want our community to see that there's a leader that's doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And I tell that people that character is maybe the most important decision factor in who you work with, not their expertise, but really the character. And if you get both of those together, then that's special.
You know, that's important. I think that I'm an entrepreneur at heart, and so I always think about what it means to align with people who have the right fit for the goals that I have, as well as the work that needs to be done and the desires that I have in order to be able to service various organizations and various communities. And so my thought is, you know, if we have a very good opportunity to work with the organization, then it makes sense to bring along others with me, right? And again, have that trust that if I create the opportunity, I might as well, you know, extend it to others as well. So that's really important to me.
Right.
And also, as a Black owned, you know, woman owned business, it's important for me also to align myself with other, you know, minority owned businesses, as well as women owned businesses, and say, hey, you know, I have an opportunity that you may have or may not have, and I'm in the door, so come in the door with me. You know, that's really important to me. I learned early, and you told me to go the long way, so I'm about to go the long way.
That's no problem.
I learned early with my first business. I started my first business right out of college. So I graduated undergrad at Tennessee State University in May of that year. And then about 30 days later, I took my last $75 to my name and went down to the county clerk's office here in Nashville and got a business license and ordered some business cards.
Okay.
And I decided, you know, I had interviewed as a graduating senior for I don't know how many PR firms and PR positions and marketing positions. And I kept getting, you know, you're just so overqualified to be so young. You're so qualified. Like, you've had all these internships and all these experiences. We don't really know if you'll be a good fit for us. We really need somebody who's truly entry level. Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I would get, it came down to you and one other person.
Right.
Sometimes I would ask, I was very intentional. And I would ask, you know, so this other person, you know, you mind telling me, you know, what school they went to, or, you know, what their background was. And generally, I would just want to be honest, we're in a safe space and whatever.
Yeah,
these are diversity conversations. And generally the response was, well, you know, they went to blank university, and it was generally a PWI, right? Or they traveled abroad, or they had this recommendation letter, or whatever, right? So it was, I kind of knew early kind of what I was up against. With the shiny resume, with all the experience, I interviewed well, but I kind of knew what I was up against. And so I realized, well, if no one will give me a job, I'm gonna make my own job. And I was very, I was always very entrepreneurial, even as a child. So that spirit just, you know, it just carried on with me. And entrepreneurship has definitely been something that lives within my families, both my mom's side and my dad's side. And even with that, I never had an opportunity to be, you know, to have a trust fund or to be invested in financially from many of my family members, although they would have, you know, if they had the resources. Even those who did have the resources probably would have invested in my business, but I just never desired to make that ask, right? So I just wanted to do it on my own. And I did. And by the grace of God, was able to launch my first business. And at around 24, 25, just started getting, clients in PR, working primarily in sports and entertainment PR, and, also working with some small businesses and some startup businesses who were played in that space, and aligning partnerships with them for, say, like Nike and BT and Walmart and Burger King and Magic Johnson Enterprises, and aligning those small businesses with those larger brands, and not just alignment for partnership, but also for media coverage. So landing them in ESPN and BBC, like international media, and Good Morning America, and just doing some phenomenal things. And then the recession hit.
Right.
And the recession hit I noticed it around 2007, although it officially had, for those of you who are economists, right, who pay attention to the economy, I didn't know anything about that at 24 or 25 years old.
Right.
I had no idea.
Right.
I just knew that I came out of college. I had difficulty finding a job. I had an entrepreneurial spirit, and I launched this business, and I'm making money. That's all I knew.
Right.
But when the recession hit, or when there was, things hit the public, it's a delay. There's a lag in when it gets to the public and when it's actually happening in the world.
Right. Right.
So while we often say the recession hit in 2008, it really happened before that, or there was evidence that it was coming. And I didn't have the insight or the maturity or the understanding of what that meant as a business owner at that stage of my life. I had been mentored to some degree in the space of how to do PR, right? How to manage brands and how to communicate and how to get attention to brands and how to build partnerships and all those kinds of things, and how to get media coverage and how to speak to various, communities and things of that nature. But no one had mentored me on the business side. I didn't have that. And my mom was helping me build out, my accounting structure and all my billables and all of that. And I didn't know how to do that.
Right.
I knew how to do the work. I didn't know how to run the business.
Right.
And so when that came around, just my largest clients, they left. We had actually had several contractors on the team, and wasn't able to, to continue to compensate them.
Right.
And we had an office, wasn't able to stay in the office.
Right. We've all seen that.
Had to get that up. And again, I'm 24.
Right. Wow.
I had no clue what was going on.
Right.
So I had to let the business park it. I had to figure a lot out financially very quickly. Thankfully, I had a mentor who had a position at Tennessee State University, a new position as an associate vice president. And she said, "Hey, I need somebody to work in the PR office, and I trust you. Do you want the job?" And I said, "Lord help. Yes, I do."
Right. Right.
And so it just came at a perfect time. Throughout that process, working at a HBCU, also a state-funded institution, you learn a lot. You learn a lot about structure. You learn a lot about just the space of education and how important the image and the work and the impact of those kinds of institutions are. And you get a chance to. I came into you all talking about tenure. I don't know if that was figurative or literal, but that's a word that I hear all the time as a professor, because I'm also a professor who is determining whether or not there's something that I want to pursue at the stage of my career.
Right.
It was a very enlightening experience, because I got a chance to continue to work in community. I got a chance to continue building my business and restructuring what the business could look like, because right around that time is when Twitter got popular.
Okay.
And a lot of the executives that I had, again, sat at the table with at 23, 24 years old, a lot of those executives had gotten laid off or had left their businesses, or, had left their company, or they were furloughed, and they were needing to reinvent themselves. And they didn't know how to navigate social media. And they were trying to figure out, where do I go? Because again, I worked primarily with in the sports and entertainment space. And so the music industry tanked back then. You know, sports was still doing kind of okay, but shortly after that, as I think the NFL had the collective bargaining, they had to, you know, a lot of what's going on with all of those industries were really struggling. The banking industry, the automotive industry.
Right,
And
right.
so a lot of senior executives were coming to me and saying, you know, I'm trying to start up something, but I don't know what I'm trying to start. I know I got 20 years of experience, but I need help, like branding myself and getting out there, or I need help putting a package together. And so I transitioned the first business into it back into, you know, giving it more life by working with those individuals and helping them with their social media and helping them rebrand themselves and brand themselves outside of, you know, there's I think the generation ahead of me, I'm a millennial, the generation ahead of me and the generation ahead of it, baby boomer, Gen X, very, very have a very strong allegiance to their employer.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And my generation and the millennial generation, the generation below us, Generation Z, we don't really have that as much.
Right.
And so I think those insights were really critical for me to be able to give to some of those clients as I was trying to rebuild my business. They were trying to rebuild their careers as well. Mm-hmm. So that was a good transition. And in that transition, we got a chance to work with a very prominent, I would say, Gen Xer. He might be a baby boomer. We got a chance to work with LL Cool J. Okay. And so in working with him and helping him brand some of his business initiatives, that gave me an opportunity to see, okay, we can get back, like the business, we can get this back, right? So I'm grateful to my full-time job at that time at Tennessee State in their PR department, but also being able to grow the business. And that's one of the things that I or regrow or represent, give the business new life coming out of the recession. And that's one of the things that I really encourage intrapreneurs to consider. Is it's okay to have your job and build your business at the same time. Your job and the resources you gain relationally and financially from your job can help you. They're your investor, right? Mm-hmm. That employer is your investor in your entrepreneurial effort. So you don't have to, when people say quit your job, yeah, you can quit, but make sure you quit with the right, with the right structure in place, right? Because you never know what can happen.
Right.
So I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful that I had an opportunity to be able to do both. Mm-hmm. In that process, though, I'd already gotten my master's degree. And it was funny because when I graduated with my master's degree, it was the same week that I had lost like 3 clients. And I didn't have a dime to my name. It was crazy. And I had to actually go take a job at Sears for like 2 or 3 months.
Okay, come on now.
In that gap.
Right.
I graduate with a master's degree.
Right.
I am a business owner that generated thousands of dollars in months.
Right. And you over in Sears.
And I was.
We paused it. Come on, jeez. Bring her back.
Can you all hear me? There we go.
Yeah.
All of that was gone suddenly. And I said, well, I got responsibilities.
That's right.
And I graduate on a Saturday. I started at Sears on that Monday.
Okay.
Like,
now, slow that down for just a second.
Yeah, sure.
Because you're saying something here. And I want to pause just a second. You on a roll. Don't forget nothing. Don't lose your spot.
Oh, no, I won't forget.
I do want to bring Tommy in to also talk about some linkages that he's already heard between you all's backgrounds, because there's a lot of linkages there. Okay. But I want to slow it down because I want to show our audience that there's a common theme among the 3 of us. Okay. And that is a willingness to do whatever it takes to survive. Mm-hmm. And to not allow pride, ego, or anything else interrupting you doing what's necessary to make it. And I think too often the average person would just sit at home and say, I got this master's degree. I can't embarrass myself by showing up at Sears. But you are outlasting Sears.
Oh yeah, Sears is
because
gone.
you were willing to do because you were willing to do that. Now Sears is going under, but you going over.
But here's the point with that, Eric. Or here's another piece of that is that again, I come from a very hardworking family,
Come on now.
and my great grandfather James Ellis Sr. He was a very hardworking man, but he also had entrepreneurial pursuits, right? And that was a very that story didn't really get told, I don't think, enough in our family. But as kind of this great grandchild, the fourth generation, paying attention to everything,
Come on now.
everything, right? And so it didn't really get passed down to my grandmother. It didn't really get passed down to my mom, but it came to me. I was taking in everything.
Right.
And so when my family, I still don't think my family really know what I do. Honestly.
Right.
I think when they heard like, oh, I had a when I was in my master's degree program and I had launched the business, I was bringing in, some pretty good revenue on the business. But I also had a job at an insurance agency, and I quit. And my family heard about it and they were like, why you quit that good job? And what's wrong with you? You just graduated college. You need a job. And I was like, that job. I got a business. I got a dream. I got stuff to do. Like I can't be sitting here, doing stuff I don't want to do. But that's difficult. And I think that's one of the reasons why, we do this work too, because there's no reason why, with all the experience that I had, I shouldn't have been able to get a job at a top PR firm. I should not have been working at an insurance agency. But I remember I ended up being on a board. I'm on a board. I don't mind saying this, but I ended up getting on a board, and one of the individuals affiliated with the board ran a prominent, at the time, a very prominent agency, PR marketing agency, and said to me upon meeting me, I read up on your experience and your background, and I wish I had known you when I was running my agency. I would have hired you immediately. And I said, you know what? It's interesting that you say that, because you don't remember this. I interviewed with you for a job. And, I remember interviewing with you. I remember coming to your office and I interviewed with you at your company.
Yep.
Really? So again, that we talk about the talent gap and the talent pool and talent.
Right.
Yeah, we talk about all of that, but at the end of the day, if individuals really don't have the desire to make sure that Eric talked about, Tommy, bias with with my clients yesterday in his presentation. And if you can't bust through and break through that bias, you're thinking, that one person is not as qualified or as relevant or as necessary or to the job, or can't perform as much or as high or as at a level of quality that someone else is when they come from a similar background as you. You hire who you like, you hire who's familiar to you, you hire who you're comfortable with. And so at the time when she was interviewing me, it was an interview, right? Because she knew I was experienced, but she didn't really see me. Right. It wasn't until years later,
right,
I came at her level, right, in a space where we're on the same level now, right, in a different industry, in a different setting. When I had my company, I wish I had met you. I would have hired you. Well, ma'am, about 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, you actually did interview me. I met you. You don't remember. So again, I went another way with that, but that's something that I experienced early on in my career. Go ahead.
Time out again. Tommy, you got to jump in because you see she can go. I appreciate it. Here's what I want to say. I want to give this commercial. I want to throw it to Tommy, and then we coming back.
Okay, great.
I want to interrupt with this. I want to interrupt with this beautiful view of Dr. Ariel Ellis, who is sort of a superhero in many ways, a Black female superhero.
I love it.
And you are busting through, girl. And you get up each day and you just look at the world and you say, we about to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Get on this team. I'm going somewhere. And there's
not that easy.
Huh?
It's not that easy. It's easier said than done.
It's easier said than done. But here's the thing. At a time when we seem to be hyped up on celebrating failure and barriers,
Mm-hmm.
we need to see some people that are busting through walls and saying to life, you might not remember me, but when you said no to me, that wasn't the final word.
That's right.
On me. And so I think that I just wish there were 1 million people that were listening right now so that they could hear your confidence and your determination that nothing's going to get in the way of you doing what God has put you on earth to do. Tommy, jump in.
No, I'm hearing a blessing. I will start by saying that T is for Tennessee, STATE, University. I'm a tiger, blue and blue through and through. I started my company in 1996 after graduating and all that good stuff from TSU awesome. Big Blue. Awesome. I had been there, since the late 80s. I too worked in a field and I actually worked at the Renaissance Nashville Hotel on Commerce.
Yeah.
I received a tip from one of our patrons, and I took that tip money and I went downtown and bought my license to start Make It Plain Consulting. And so that was some time ago. I'm very proud and happy for you.
Wow.
I had a question.
Yeah.
As you look at your journey from where you're born and raised, and you may speak about where you're born and raised and what landed you in Nashville. Now I'm going to fast forward a little bit on the question. What's next for you?
Oh, wow. So you asked, I'm a Memphis native. So my family's from Memphis originally, and my father's side of the family is originally from the Northeast. So roots on his side of the family are Georgia, South Carolina, and Louisiana. But he and his siblings grew up in the Northeast area. Massachusetts, and live kind of in Connecticut, but I am born and raised in Memphis, and that's where my mother's side of the family is from. And so she went to TSU, and my grandmother actually was introduced to TSU initially when she was pursuing colleges. And so I'm a fourth generation, college grad, and that's that. I realized that I just recently realized that education and entrepreneurship are really in my blood. My great grandfather, who I mentioned earlier, James Ellis Sr., his sister was an educator. His sister, he had two sisters. They were both HBCU grads, Russ College and Lane College. And it's amazing when I think back then, and you look at those pictures of us as Black people going to college in the 1800s. I mean, it's just amazing. But anyway, his two sisters were college graduates. One was a teacher, and and she actually died in a tornado in Mississippi. That is around the time in the 40s and 50s back in the South, where they had those schoolhouses, and they were putting schoolhouses in certain rural areas so that the Black children could go to school. Well, this was one of the first schoolhouses in that particular area in rural Mississippi. And a tornado came through and killed all of the children and her as well. And so she essentially was caring for the children and trying to keep them away from the storm, and ended up dying. And that story is I heard it a lot as a child, but I did not make the connection to that sacrifice until recently. The sacrifice of an educator, the sacrifices of entrepreneurship, the sacrifices of being a pioneer in caring for your community and educating people who look like you and giving them opportunity, and how it all fits into who I am. I didn't make that connection until recently. And so I think where I'm going, or I know where I'm going, is that when I transitioned from PR exclusively to, and that's a story also, when I transitioned from PR to working, we still say that Advisory 83 is a communication consultancy because communication is essentially the root of what we do. We build strategy, right? That's communicating and how to pursue that in a bit from a business perspective. But also we build communication planning and messaging and for audiences around diversity, equity, inclusion. And we also do training and education, which of course is communication as well. So where we're going, or where I'm going, I guess I can say where I'm going, which was the question. I'm grateful to be able to teach what I do and do what I teach. I'm a professor here in Nashville at Lipscomb University. And I'm grateful to be able to teach my students to do the things that I do, but also invest in them in the same ways that I get a chance to invest in my clients. And I think that where we're going, or where I'm going is, or what's next is, when I got my doctorate from USC, Southern California, people would ask, wait a minute, you're an entrepreneur, you got a the thriving business. And again, people still don't know what I do, but right. You've got a business, you've been an entrepreneur for a long time now, you're still fairly young, you're a professor, you've done all these things outside of the work, in service to the profession, in service to the community, and sitting on boards and stuff. Why are you getting a doctorate? Like, what's next? Like, what are you doing with this? So why would you spend all this money and all this time pursuing this? What are you going to do with it? And my answer would be, not to be rude or anything, but my answer would be whatever I want.
Yes.
And so what next?
Hold on. Say that again, because we got to be able to say that, and people have to be able to see us comfortable saying that. Say that again.
Yeah, it would be whatever I want. And people didn't know how to receive that. Even people who knew me and have known me for years and know my heart, know my spirit, and know that I'm a very, I have a sweet spirit. I'm a very humble person. I'm not I don't do a lot of attitude type stuff unless, you provoke me. Right.
Right.
But people know that I'm very, I can be, I'm very, kind in how I interact with people. And so when I would say that, they would go,
right. Oh, standoffish. What?
Whatever you want. Well, yeah, it's whatever I want, whatever I want it to be, whatever I want to pursue, I will pursue. Whatever fits within my vision and my dream and my, the landscape of whatever God has for me, that's what I will pursue, right? And I don't think that we're comfortable saying that. Like, we have to always have a destination in our answer. It's just like when we tell kids, so what do you want to be when you grow up? Right. And the kid says a janitor, a singer, a doctor, the president. Okay. Yeah, that works. Like whatever it is that you want to do, pursue that. Right. So I think my answer is, what's next? I could say I'm going to be writing another book, which I am. I'm going to write another book. I'm going to, grow Advisory 83. I'm going to grow my other ventures, my Village Votes and executives. I'm going to, pursue a second home in Africa. I'm going to publish my academic research as a professor. All that stuff.
Come on now.
All that stuff that I'm thinking that I want, I can say that that's what's next. But in reality, I think that's what folks want to hear. Like, so what's next for you, right? They want to hear that, and it feels good to be able to say that. But the core of it is whatever I want, whatever's possible, whatever. You know what I mean?
Right. Let me jump in with this. That the community's buzzing. And I would say that in part, when, there's a couple of ways to ask you, so, what's next? Tommy asked it in a kind way. Mm-hmm. But other people, sometimes they can say, don't you have enough already?
Oh, wow.
And so if they're coming at you with that, you've done this, why a PhD, and there's a bit of aggression.
Yeah.
That kind of comment. And so it sometimes will demand whatever I want response. In other words, you're trying to equally meet what sometimes is coming at you through the voice of envy and other things.
Yeah.
But I just think that it is so, we're here on the last day and a half of Black History Month.
Mm-hmm.
And you are raising the bar. And I just think that that is so, it's so awesome to see. And Tommy Lewis and I appreciate being in the presence of somebody else that's not making excuses, that's not feeling like they have to make themselves smaller to be in this space. You're being as big as God has made you. You're making no excuses around it. You're not coming at it with pride. You're coming at it with the reality that in spite of all of the barriers that are in front of me, I'm going to do whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
And we have to believe that. If we keep giving racism and sexism and all the isms more powerful than us, our talent, skill, ability, our God, our faith, our connections with one another, we'll never move forward.
I agree with that. I agree with that. And I think, you know, there is, I hope that we are, I believe that we are at a, I don't want to say the word pivotal, but that's the only word I can think of right now. I feel like we're at a pivotal place right now, particularly amongst people of color, but namely amongst the Black community.
Come on now. Come on.
And I'm sensing that we are recovering our bravery.
Oh, say that again. Recovering our bravery.
Recovering that bravery and really taking on the pioneering, the pioneer spirit that we've always had. Because I love all people and love all, you know, all the beauty of ethnicity and what it brings to our society. But I can't think of another group of people who have been, you know, who have faced oppression the way that we have and still persevere the way that we do. It is phenomenal. I'm a PBS person. My family loves like history, and so we love PBS and all that kind of stuff. My mother actually said to me, I don't want to have to think about this day, but she actually said to me, you know, Ariel, when I pass on, don't make sure you do a in lieu of flowers to PBS donations to PBS. Because we love information. We're very information type family. And so I grew up watching Eyes on the Prize and Bob Ross and everything on PBS, right? Sesame Street. And I was watching the Black Church documentary that came out, I think last week. Recently. And again, that spirit that we have, that pioneering spirit, that faith, that by any means necessary, against the grain, get it done, make an impact, care for your community, care for people. That mindset, I believe, there's a resurgence of that in a lot of ways. And I think, Eric, Tommy, is showing up even in corporations when we think about the concept of corporate activism. I think it's showing up there too. And people are feeling more comfortable going into their organizations, as we've noticed with some of the clients that we work with. People are feeling more comfortable expressing, you know, their desires and concerns and needs and feelings and perceptions about their employers and about their spaces and where they work and who they work for. So my hope is that I see it in my generation. I see it in the generation below me, but also within the generation ahead of me. And I talk a lot about generations because I've done a lot of research in that area. But I see us collectively from our own vantage point, trying to figure out how to really move communities. I really appreciate that.
Right. Let me weigh in with this. And then I want to make sure, Ariel, that you get connected with Tommy Lewis, because I think you all going to do some work together. I love Endo C. Wright's, you know, his comment up. I want you to be connected with him. He's a brilliant consultant. And I think that that's who you are. That's what you're about, is creating these alliances with beautiful people trying to do amazing things. But I want to say this specifically to you.
Okay.
And I want to say to you that I believe my wife is watching. I hope my daughter's watching. But I think that every woman of color and people in general need to hear from you and
Yeah.
what you said today.
Yeah.
Because you embody everything that to so many communities seems to be a secret about Black women.
Mm-mm.
They don't recognize, what all they've done to get the Black community to where we are today.
Mm.
Much of that is embodied in everything that you've displayed in the short time that you've been with us.
I love it.
You came on the stage a little late, but you caught up and passed quick. I mean,
Yeah.
boom, let's go.
Yeah.
And what we see is hope. We see brilliance. We see faith. We see intelligence. We see a non-apologetic spirit. And all of those, resourcefulness, resilience, we see all of those things.
Mhm.
And that's who we have to tie into. That's who we have to remind ourselves who we are. Because right now, we're doing a lot of protests, a lot of pushback. But sometimes when we huddle ourselves, we have to know a part of what's in us.
You do.
And if you don't highlight and give people like you a platform to speak, to do, to be celebrated, and for Black men. Here's what I want you to see. Go get it.
Yep.
Go get it, Dr. Ellis. No, I'm pulling for you, girl. I'm proud of you. I see you. I'm bragging about you because you are somebody.
Thank
And
you.
I think that that's the kind of folk that we need to be around. That's what happens when you and I engage. Tommy, that's what happens when you and I see. Tommy and I are supposed to be competitors. But I reached out to him 3 years ago and said, Tommy, I want you to join me in this venture. And not as an understudy, not as a stand-in when I'm not there, but as an equal partner. And that was one of the best decisions I ever made. And Dr. Ellis, it took it from something that would have been work, trying to show up every week and come up with something, to something that's a joy. And so Tommy and I have had a ball over the last 3 years, learning from one another, supporting one another, collaborating, iron sharpening iron. And then when the community over here, when they started joining in, it got even better.
And can I say something to that?
Absolutely.
I want to put a practical spin on that. We talk a lot about wealth building in the Black community, and one of my other business initiatives that we started up in 2019 is called My Village Votes, and it's really centered around helping organizations communicate more effectively, or through research and data, communicate their data or collect data more effectively in building narratives for communities of color. And so we'll work with advocacy groups, nonprofits, civic organizations to be able to help do better data education and data analysis around communities of color and our behaviors, our lifestyles, et cetera. Because a lot of times we're missing from the narrative, and then when the narrative is written about us, it's about the gaps and the lack of things that we don't have and what we don't do and how we have a zero net worth and all these other things. But there's more, right? So one of the things that I really like to center on with Advisory 83 is two things. Yes, we have a structure where we'll bring in employees and we'll hire people and give them jobs because people need jobs. But I also, to the point earlier, Eric, about having the right partners, I know what it's like to be a small business owner and seek opportunities and try to get in the door. And so I think it's very important as you're building a business. If, again, I want to say this in a different way. If you're building a business, I like to bring in people who, may have tons of experience like you, Eric, but also are trying to build their own, castle, if you will, their own kingdom.
Right.
And say, I'm not giving you an opportunity. I'm allowing you this chance to show your talent and your skills. So I think it's really important, again, while you say, yes, we need to provide more jobs for people to give people more opportunities, but there are business owners who have their own dreams and their own desires and their own pursuits. and they need an opportunity to get in the door as well. And so I say to folks, sometimes folks just want to come work with me and they say, well, I have some time and I want to consult and I want to learn. No, sis, go get your business license. Go set up the structure. I'll put you on send me the W-9. Let's get your business on paper, right? So that you can have a formal structure, so that you don't just say, I got a little something on the side. No, you have a business, right? You are a business owner. And let's get you to a place where it's not just, the most, the highest number of entrepreneurs in the US are Black women. Okay, that's great. Well, how many of us are actually profitable in our businesses? So how can we actually get you to a place? Because again, most of us, you can pull the numbers, most of us, we break even, right? We make enough money just to take care of our own families and ourselves. But do we actually have the business structure to be able to provide jobs? Do we have the business structure to be able to bring other people in so that they can go build their business, so then they have, the structure that they need? So I think when we talk about building wealth, that is really, really important. So that folks have infrastructure. A lot of times we don't have that. We don't have infrastructure for people. So that when you said that, Eric, that made me want to make sure that I drive that point home, because I said it earlier with the work we do together, but it's even deeper than that. And you kind of, tag that in your mention with the work that you do with Tommy.
Right. Tommy.
Now, this has been a rich conversation. We have to have Dr. Ellis return back for our show.
And on Eastern time.
Yeah, on Eastern time, indeed. And I miss Nashville. I lived there for 11, almost 12 years. I'm originally from Cincinnati, Ohio, like I said, and been in this space of diversity, equity, and inclusion for 30 years.
Wow.
30 years. And so I'm very blessed to partner with Eric. I would not have known that we would be here even to this moment, where I am so proud and humbled to have listened to you today.
Thank you.
Listen to you. And in closing, I'm a analytical person, so I'm always trying to connect the dots. So as I'm listening and somewhat entertained by your comments, I'm also looking at opportunity.
Yeah.
So I'm listening. I've taken notes. We have 27 clients nationally.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, there is a space that we're not playing in that I know they have a need. And that need is, how do we effectively communicate this work within our sites and across the region and our basically our footprint. And so I'm thinking of Easter Seals, globally headquartered in Chicago. We do phenomenal work with them, and the list goes on.
That's right.
You'll be hearing from us. So again, thank you.
I need to do the same thing as we think about some of our global clients. I know that you're drinking from a fire hydrant right now, as all of us are. But the only way that we ultimately get there, we've all got to scale, and we've got to keep leaning in to each other around the skills and expertise that we have.
Well, let me say this too, Eric. You opened up briefly. I don't know how much time we have left, but you opened up briefly with some of the work that I do in the boards that I sit on. I'm very delighted to have recently, just this past January, been named president of the Public Relations Society of America Foundation. And that particular organization, thank you. That particular organization, the Public Relations Society of America, is a membership organization of over 20-some thousand public relations and communication, media, strategic communicators across the globe, actually. Although it's the Society of America, it has international membership. And this is the first, if not the first, one of the oldest organizations for public relations practitioners and communicators. So, of course, like any organization, it's a membership organization. However, the membership organization has a 501c3 foundation, and that foundation is centered on diversity and inclusion, specifically rising talent and raising diversity. And so what the foundation does is develop award programs to be able to generate scholarships for students of color. And as you can imagine, the PR industry, just like many other industries, has been white for a very long time, particularly with folks who are in leadership and making the decisions around what we are exposed to, what we buy, where we spend our money, where we live, what car we purchase, where we send our children to school. All of that has a sphere of influence that is based on communication, that is based on public relations and brand building. We make those decisions based on how we see these organizations, how these brands present their products and their services to us. And many times the folks who are making those decisions, they don't look like us. Right. So the foundation is very centered around ensuring that there are more students and young professionals who are entering the industry, who have the resources to pursue degrees in this industry, but also have the mentorship and the tools and the skills to get into the door. How I said earlier, had I had access to the foundation when I was a student, who knows, right? What would have been different for my story? So, in serving as the president of this board, we are very intentional around ensuring for the next 2 to 3 years that we really give a lot of attention to making sure that our students have opportunity. And with that said, that means that I have a wealth of my network is very large as it relates to the PR and communications community. And many of those practitioners of color, they are seeking opportunities. They are seeking ways to be able to help our organization. They want to give their cultural capital to, better communication strategies, better branding strategies, better, marketing and advertising strategies. And they are waiting for those opportunities. So I'd be glad to support any of those initiatives. I'd be glad to present talent to your network and to your clients. And I think that's a great window of opportunity.
Well, I'm with Tommy. This has been fabulous. It far exceeded even what I thought we might do. Clearly, I think it's going to be so. Our producer's flashing red, like, "Hey guys, you're 11 minutes over." But it's our thing, so we can do that. Here's what I'd like you to do: share how people can get in touch with you. And I think that we want to have you back for multiple, conversations, because I think that you add so much value to this. And people have been jamming Tommy and myself about where the women at, So we want to make sure that we bring your wise voice back to this table. How can people find you?
Sure. Just visit advisory83.com. And you can sign up to get resources from us or things of that nature. Just visit our website and we'll get a newsletter from us. And then also, if you want to reach out to me directly, go to LinkedIn. I'm just Ariel Ellis, AERIAL Ellis at LinkedIn. And feel free to connect with me there. I'm pretty active there for the most part. But any resources regarding our company or the clients that we serve, even, feel free to go to our website to connect with me directly. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Well, this has been awesome. Tommy, you want to have a closing word?
Yeah, again, it's been a pleasure and a blessing. Looking forward for continued conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that our community, they're clapping as well. We've answered the call to have that female, scholastic, business-driven, entrepreneurial spirit on the show.
Mm-hmm.
So we have some comedians who are very, very intelligent. Comedians who are always in the community.
Mm-hmm.
We've answered you, and we'll have Dr. Ellis back again.
Awesome. Right. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you all. Awesome. Just continue to, Eric, we'll always be in touch. And Tommy, I look forward to touching base with you soon, and really excited just to know that this conversation and this platform exists, and really wish you all the best.
Absolutely. Awesome. You've added a lot. Love you, sis.
Thank you. Love you all as well. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.